Welcome to LDS Missionary Moments. In part 2 of our interview with Todd Anderson, we're going to be discussing learning Russian in Russia, his trainer and future companions, and adjusting to the culture and food of Russia.
Did that kind of to help you a little bit? Because that first fear of rejection, that first time talking to somebody, everybody's super nervous. Did you feel like you, I don't know, like you made a major step there in the plane and you were better prepared getting off?
I'm not going to lie. It was really weird. I felt on top of the world right there, like it was way awesome. But moving into the actual mission, like Satan does exist. And holy snap, he bound my tongue. Like the first, I don't know, I'd say 4 weeks of being out with my trainer, I didn't speak to a single person.
Really?
First 4 weeks.
4 weeks.
Wow.
I felt terrible. I was just so dang scared. I think
Afraid of what, though?
I think it's because I was at an 8 with the language,
So
and then I realized I was at a 1, and I don't know. Maybe it's me as my personality. I'm a perfectionist. I hate to be just below average. I need to be up there, and the fact that I wasn't, it got me scared. Just like, oh, I don't want to perform under, but
Right.
I don't really know the real reasons.
What was the thing that helped you break through that? Because that must have been agonizing, and there had to be some internal conflict of, gosh, I know why I'm out here. I want to say something to somebody, but here I am with your tongue bound, so to speak. So what was the thing that broke through?
There was a quote in Preach My Gospel, which is like a missionary's manual, from President Hinckley. And I can't quote it verbatim,
Sure.
but he pretty much says every single missionary, every single morning should get down on their knees and pray for the ability to just speak, have their tongues loosened and have their mouths filled. And I was just like, okay, I'll give that a shot. I tried it. The next day, went out. I talked to one guy, got his contact. I was like, hey, that worked. Cool. And then tried it the next day, and then the next day, and the next day, and just things started coming. I was like, oh, wow, that's legit. That actually works. And so that's what really started helping me get out of it. I was still scared to death when I got my second companion, but he was also fairly young in the mission and didn't know that much Russian. And so that really forced us. Like, if we want to get anything done, both of you aren't very good. So good luck.
So let's jump back to your trainer.
Okay.
Those are always fun.
Yeah.
It's the first guy. It's your first helper, your first companion. For people who don't know, we call them companions because we're with that person 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for what, about 3 months, 3 months?
Yeah, 3 months to start.
Sometimes.
no
They're
escape.
there. That trainer's there to guide you, to help you, to introduce you to things. It can be a miserable experience if you have somebody that's just a grinder, or it
who,
can be a
purposely
great
wants
experience.
to make your life miserable.
So day one, what happened with your trainer? Day one, how was that?
With my trainer or day one?
Day one,
Russian?
just with your trainer out in the field.
Okay.
And what did he do that was awesome?
Okay, well, in order to explain what we did day one, I need another background story. So, I get in, and my mission president, he says, all right, Elder Anderson, you're going to be opening up a city called Dzerzhinsk. I was like, all right, whatever.
How many
I don't know what that
consonants does that city have? Because it sounds like it has 15.
I don't know.
Doesn't matter. It's Russian. We just know that there's probably 15 consonants.
Yeah, probably. So, and what it means to open up a city means that missionaries have never been there before. And one, that's a big task to do in Russia because there's so few missionaries as it is. Two, it's huge because I've never been to Russia still, and I'm doing it. It's like, but at that point, I didn't know what that meant. I was like, okay, I'll do that. Not a problem. So I meet my companion. We ask the mission president, we're like, so what are the plans? Like, do we have tickets out? Because this was about a 4-hour train ride out from Moscow. And he's like, you know what? I haven't gotten that far. We want you to open it, but we haven't gotten all the details just yet.
So now you have your tickets. You're headed out to an area. Do you have a place to live?
We do not have tickets yet even.
You don't have a ticket.
Wow.
He's told us what we're doing. We don't know what to do yet. He had a lot on his plate, and he was planning on taking care of it. So at that point, he makes a few phone calls. He's like, all right, you're just going to go to a city called Nizhny Novgorod. It's about an hour away from Dzerzhinsk. It's like, okay. And Nizhny, by the way, is like the 4th biggest city in Russia, so good size. We went to stay with a few elders there, just because we didn't have an apartment in Dzerzhinsk yet, didn't have anything there. We just knew that was our goal. We were going to open that city. So we're living with these other elders now. And that was so much fun, but so ineffective.
Because you had so many people there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Four guys in one apartment. Oh, it was great. But
You form a brotherhood, though, right?
It was amazing. I loved it. I love those guys.
Form
I love it.
bonds that last forever.
Yeah, I love it. Especially just because I didn't know any of them. My companion didn't know them. We go in, and just being like brethren in a mission, you all have the same goal. You know that each other are elders. You know you're also there doing the same thing, but we haven't met each other yet. First thing, like they meet us at the train station. We're giving them hugs, like, "Hey, how you doing? What's your name?" "Okay, nice to meet you. I'm Elder Anderson. Nice to meet you. Great." I'm still jet lagged. I'm out of it.
Right.
But yeah, we get to the apartment. We throw our stuff on the ground. We're not planning on staying there long. We're planning on getting an apartment, getting out quick. So the next day, we figure, all right, well, let's go do things. And that's when that fear hit me. I was just like, all right, I got this. Like, we don't even need to study. Like, why are we studying scriptures right now? Like, let's go talk to people. I was on top of the world. And then I get out and start talking to people and realize my companion understands them, but I don't understand a word they're saying. And then I just froze.
And there it began.
It's like, oh, snap.
Right.
But
you got out of that.
I did. My companion would come up to someone like, "Hi, my name is Elder Raymond. I'm a missionary, and my friend, Elder Anderson, he's completely new, still working on Russian. Do you mind if you help him with his Russian? He wants to tell you why we're here."
Just threw you right into that bus.
And I understood that phrase perfectly.
Right.
Because he did it all the time.
You don't even have to speak Russian to understand what's coming at that point.
But that's a good icebreaker, right?
Yeah.
It was great.
That's a perfect icebreaker.
It was really great because then they were a lot friendlier. They weren't.
Sure.
They weren't just like, oh, these guys want to just like teach me everything they know. It's like, oh, I'm helping this kid. Like, okay,
Right.
yeah, not a problem. So that's how I slowly started to break out of it. It was good. It was fun.
Do you think it was different for you going into a house with 4 missionaries versus just you and your trainer alone? Do you think that changed the dynamic for the relationship you built with your trainer?
Honestly, I don't know. I don't know.
'Cause that's all you knew.
Yeah.
Right?
I knew when I went on my mission, I went into the same sort of situation, 4-man house, but a lot of the guys that I went with were just them and their trainer, and it was interesting because there was that little bit of difference in the relationship because when it's just that one person rather than maybe the 2 others, sometimes it's easier for brand new missionaries because they don't feel quite as stuck maybe with just one person and they can branch out a little bit more. Mm-hmm. But it's interesting.
Yeah.
So real quick, how many companions did you end up having? You're there. How many months at this point? You've been in the MTC for what, 3 months?
Yeah, about.
Okay, so over the next course of 21 months, how many companions did you have?
Give me a sec.
Partners.
Wow, cool.
9 companions.
Yeah.
Any from the United States?
They all were.
All from none
Wow.
from the Soviet Union at all.
No.
I guess it isn't the Soviet Union. It's Russia.
Mother Russia.
It's Russia, right? That's
Yeah.
what they call it.
Yeah,
I'm still back in the Rocky days when Rocky fought Ivan Drago. So that's where my mind is.
So what of all how many was that? 9 different areas then, or
Area-wise, I had Dzerzhinsk, and then I went back to Nizhny, the city that was right next to it. And then I went to Voronezh, and then I went to Moscow.
so 4 different areas? Which did you have
And
a
then-
favorite area that you were in?
No, just
Really?
because I learned so much about myself in every single area. I had the most success, like statistically, in Voronezh, but I learned so much more in different areas with different companions and different things that we had to take care of, So I couldn't say I have one favorite place.
Well, and you were before we got the show started. You kind of mentioned some of the interesting parts about serving in a country like Russia, or at least in the mission that you were serving in around Moscow. It sounds like you had quite a bit of restrictions that you had to follow, or some rules that you had to follow that weren't really common outside of that. Are you able to talk a little bit about some of those things?
Yeah. So it was all a gradual thing. I got in and, it was okay. You could send pictures home. You could send pictures home of people, of places, things you did. Great. And then slowly just started changing. Something happens behind the scenes we don't really know, but our mission president lets us know. It's like, okay, you can no longer send pictures home.
We're talking pictures over the internet.
Yeah.
Could you still take pictures at all, or
You could still take pictures, and you could send them home via flash drive in the mail, but you could not send it over the internet.
Interesting.
Yeah. And then the rule came out that you had to tell your parents they're not allowed to post anything you say. They can't put your letters on Facebook or anything. They can't put your pictures on Facebook, nothing on social media. Nothing.
Wow.
And then they came out saying you can't even say names on it. You can't write home names about people. You can't say, hey, I met this way cool guy. His name's so-and-so.
Peter.
Couldn't say that. Yeah.
Yeah.
You couldn't say that. You couldn't mention any activities you did. You can't say, hey, we went and helped feed the homeless this week. No, you couldn't say that. Just like you had to let them know, like, here's a spiritual experience I had. It was great.
With person A.
I'm still alive. Yeah.
I did activity X.
Honestly,
I'm having fun.
mind you, this is a whole, like, it happened gradually. It wasn't like
Right.
1 week that happened. It was throughout the 2 years.
Did you ever get any sort of explanation as to why that was, or was it just kind of
protection over
Sure.
the church? Like, I won't go into details about politics and junk, but there were things that were happening, and people were looking to get us out of Russia, and so they said, we're not taking any chances.
Enough said. That's good.
Right.
Don't do it.
Well, and you were
Yeah.
also there during kind of that conflict period with Ukraine a little bit, right?
Yeah, give us some years that you were there.
From 2011, well, no, that's when I graduated, sorry, 2012 to 14.
Okay, so just recent.
So,
Yeah.
Just recent.
So that kind of gives a little bit of background as to why things may have been a little bit tighter for you guys.
Give us some culture shock things. You're there. What just blew your mind? You're an American in Russia.
Ice.
Ice.
You do
it's
not-
everywhere.
No, you do not drink anything with ice in it.
Really? How
No,
come?
You will get sick and die.
Oh, okay. Was that the
I
same
always-
thing with water? I mean,
I always thought that was in South America or Mexico.
I thought that was Mexico.
Yeah, what's the deal? What's
I
the
don't
with
know,
the
maybe it's
water?
just everything everywhere else but America. I don't know, but no, it's not just water either. If you ask for soda or if you ask for ice in your soda at a restaurant, they're like, why?
Really?
So every soda that you had was warm?
It was chilled, but it was never cold.
Really?
Unless you specified for it. Then they would add ice, but they just thought you were the weirdest person in the world. So
Interesting.
that was one of the bigger culture shocks.
How was the food for you?
It was all right.
Was there any one of the things that you heard about before going out that you were afraid you might have to eat, or any of the shocking foods that you hear about?
There was nothing that I was afraid of. Everyone's heard of borscht.
Yeah, what is
I
that?
got that a lot. It's just a cabbage and beet soup.
Delicious.
And, spill it on your white shirt. It's done for. Don't even bother
Right.
washing. And it was great. But I had that a few times.
What did you mostly eat? If you were cooking, what did you guys cook?
We always cooked.
You never had some dinner? You had dinner at somebody's house.
Rarely.
Rarely,
But we did.
Okay,
And
and it was borscht.
usually.
What do they drink? We drink like milk. We drink like I don't know, Crystal Light.
They'll
we drink
have
whatever.
They'll have water and compote.
What is that?
Compote is
That sounds delicious.
you just say yeah.
Sounds thick. Whatever it is.
You would take whatever fruit you want. They usually take berries, specifically berries, and they just boil it like crazy. And then they'll add lots of sugar and you cool it down. It's like hot Kool-Aid.
Right.
Hot Kool-Aid.
Yeah.
Delicious.
Sort of, kind of. But then you can stick it in the fridge and they'll drink it cold. Like it's
Right.
It's good
like
drink.
a juice food. That's
Yeah.
interesting. Was there any foods that you really fell in love with, or like any other candy? Or
You're
anything
craving
like that?
now.
Plov.
Plov. What is plov?
Plov is a dish from Uzbekistan, but there are a lot of Uzbekistanians there, and it's very simple. Just rice with either pork or chicken, and carrots and onions. That's pretty much it. But
Right,
basic.
plov.
But the way they seasoned it, it was just like, yeah.
It's something special. Was what was kind of like the standard Russian diet I mean, was rice a main staple there? Like, well, a lot of Asia, which isn't very far away, or what was the daily eat over in Russia?
Bread and salami.
Really?
Like, I'd say that's the gist of it. Like, I think about it. I don't think I've seen much of it in American stores, but you can buy like sausages and about that thick or so. You
Like
just
the
buy
summer
it.
sausage stuff?
Yeah, that type of stuff. They have entire aisles of that in their grocery stores.
Wow.
They've got so many different kinds. They'll take that, just slice off some, stick it on a
Piece of bread,
add some cheese, put on some like horseradish mustard, and
That's it.
yeah.
I was actually going to ask
some
you
mayonnaise.
about cheese, because that was one of the ones that I kind of missed.
Really? You're fascinated by cheese.
Well, no. Were there any foods that were difficult that you started to crave on your mission? American stuff that whether it's a Big Mac or something like that, where you're going, man, I really wish we had this, and you just couldn't find anywhere.
Yes.
Reese's Fast Breaks. That was mainly the only thing.
Reese's
Really?
Fast Breaks.
Reese's Fast Breaks is by far, in my opinion, the best candy in the world. And so every single package that I asked from my parents, they sent Fast Breaks.
Do they have a pretty good selection of Western foods and candies over there, or was it just that particular candy was the one you craved?
When I got there, they had like Snickers and Kit Kats.
Wow.
You couldn't find much else. When I left, like, you could start to find peanut butter, and the Reese's started popping up places. Every once in a while, you could find a Butterfinger or something like that, but they're starting to.
Hence the
show
reason
up.
they don't want any film, any pictures out. They don't want anybody to know that good candy has moved into Russia. Is really
that could be.
Hey, let's
yes.
jump into the actual missionary work itself.
Okay.
Some of the experiences. I'm sure you have a number of people that you met, some great experiences that you had, things that changed your life as you helped to kind of change other people's lives. Do you have any experiences right off the top of your head that stick out with teaching people?
There was my first, which is very rare, but my first investigator, my first lesson ever. He was a friend of a member, and
A member being somebody who is already a member of our church. It's kind of a vernacular. We call him a member.
Yeah.
Okay.
And he was in Dzerzhinsk, and we'd met him and just said, like, yeah, so your friend told you a little bit about the church. Cool. Like, what else? Like, why are you curious to know about the
How
church?
old were they?
What are they? He was about 28.
Okay.
And he had his friend there, and they were both wondering, like, what is the difference between you and everyone else? I'm like, all right, that's a valid concern. Cool. So we start talking to them, teaching them a little bit more. And it really hit them, the difference between us, when we explained what we believe in the plan of salvation, where we came from, why we're here, where we're going afterwards, because we do believe a little differently in that aspect than other Christians do. And he said something that just opened my eyes more than I thought, because I was raised in the church. I was taught, this is how it is, this is what
Sure.
we believe. And it just all sort of kind of made sense to me. But he'd said, after we told him about that, he's like, you guys just answered questions I didn't know I had. And we're just like,
hold on.
that's so stereotypical, but
You answered questions that he didn't know he had.
yeah,
That's really interesting.
that's what I was thinking. Just
That's
like,
kind of a common thing. You think when you look back on your mission, that's a fairly common.
Was it more stuff that he just never thought to ask,
Yeah.
or was it stuff that he just had never really considered before?
a little bit of both. Just
Really?
like he'd had deceased like relatives, and he was like, I always wondered like what was up with them, but I never really thought to search it out. And now
Right.
you guys just tell me that everything's gonna be okay. Like, wow. I'm just like, yeah, man. Like,
With maybe with him in particular, what was there anything that you felt like you learned the most preparing to teach him?
just to take chances.
What do you mean by that?
he-
Take chances.
He and his friend didn't really believe what we were saying at all. They thought it was interesting. But then, they were working together, and they both had their copies of the Book of Mormon that we'd given to them. And they came to a rut, and they're like, oh, man, what do we do? And they said, oh, well, Anderson and Raymond, they taught us, if we ever have questions and we could read this book, like, hey, why not? Let's give it a shot. So they just open it up randomly, read a few verses, and like, hey, we could do this. Like, yeah. Whoa, it works. So they run and do whatever thing answered their question, and then they came to another rut.
When you
Yeah,
say a
that's-
rut, what do you mean by that? A rut in their life?
Just in their business, they work together.
Okay.
And I'm not really sure what details it were.
That's okay.
Maybe they told us, but I didn't understand. I don't know. But
Okay.
Was this pretty early on in your mission?
yeah,
when you
this
met
is
these guys.
this is my first area.
So
my
they're
first,
they're working in
wow.
their business. They have they come up to some problems in their lives, and instead of just trying to grind through them with no answers, they turn to the Book of Mormon, as you guys had recommended, and read a few passages.
Yeah, and they did it again and again, and somehow I'm not really sure what kind of answers they were getting relating to their business, but they said they got answers every single time, and that it just appeared. It was different areas in the Book of Mormon at every single time, and we got back together with them, and they told us that story, and they're like, Tell us more. Like, what's up with this book?
What
like,
is this book?
It's a book of success.
they were just, it was incredible. I loved it, and they ended up getting baptized.
Did that experience change? Besides just the taking of chances, did it change how you introduced the Book of Mormon to people there?
Not completely, considering I still didn't know how to speak the language,
Fair enough.
but it definitely it's a memory that always was there throughout the rest of my mission. I would explain it to other people, and
Using that as an example?
you're saying like, yeah, you don't believe me, like, give it a shot. What do you have to lose? 5 minutes.
Do you think that's one of the keys? Is did you ever convince anybody?
No.
How did that happen? How does it work? You didn't convince anybody, but how do they become? I don't know. How they can become converted, so to
It's
speak.
just taking a chance. Honestly, that's what it is. You invite them to, and they do. If they don't, then nothing happens. Simple as that. And that's what we did for 2 years. We just invited people.
But it's nothing that you
And-
said. It was them
No,
asking.
never. And we believe that the Spirit of God definitely does dwell around us and in us. And even if we can't really portray our message in the language that we're speaking, because sometimes they don't understand a word you're saying, but they feel that good intention, that good spirit that's coming from you, and that's how they realize, like, okay, what you're saying has something to it, and that's when they start taking it into consideration. And
What did they think
I've
of-
seen that a lot.
What did they
on
think of
mission.
church? Because I mean, you've taught them about the church. You've taught them about the basic principles, and then you said they got baptized.
Mm-hmm.
They went to church. What is church in Russia like? And how did they react to that?
It's like how it is in the rest of the world.
Yeah.
A different place.
Was it
obviously,
big? Was the
but
congregation big?
dependent on the city? For example, in Dzerzhinsk, my very first city,
Uh-huh.
we met in our apartment.
Really?
Yeah.
So it was a tiny
Wow.
branch, essentially.
It was my companion and I, a family of 4, and investigators.
And was this because you guys were brand new opening the area?
That's,
up
that's,
and
that's exactly why. And then after that, they got a building and started meeting in that and whatnot.
So were the meetings essentially? Did you try and keep the same general feel of the meetings? As you had a sacrament meeting, a old Sunday school of some sort, and then
Well-
more specialized things? Or how did that work with so few people?
I'm guessing it's the shortest church ever.
Probably. Yeah. Well, you wouldn't blame it, right?
Well, I mean, a typical LDS church meeting goes 3 hours,
Sure.
but considering there's 10 of us total.
Oh man, I'm speaking again
There's-
this Sunday, and again.
Yeah, really though, I had been in Russia 3 weeks, and I was teaching gospel doctrine classes.
Sure.
Wow.
And it was tough, but it was fun. I was just we had sacrament meeting the very first hour, and then after that we had class, and then that was it.
Right.
It was simple, good and sweet.
Did you ever find anything, whether maybe it was cultural or maybe not, that kind of resonated with the Russian people the most as you were teaching them, whether it was life after death or restoration of certain gospel principles and things, anything like that?
Well, in Russia, the main church is the Russian Orthodox Church, and they, like Catholicism, are all baptized when they're infants. And so for us, it was just re-baptism. Like if they wanted to join the church, they had to get baptized again. And they just wouldn't understand that. They couldn't comprehend it.
The need
of the why. And it's understandable. Like that's how they were raised. That's what they were told. Like I completely understand it. But that was always the biggest thing that came back.